However, some things are very clear. Jesus Christ is coming back. There will be a great white throne judgment, and this world will be plunged into a great tribulation. Those things are without question.
Sure.
Hey, thanks for joining us today. I'm Doug McAllister for Journey Fellowship Church, and my guest today is Pastor Al Sharshay, and we're talking about our current series. It's called Handwriting on the Wall, and it's a 5-part series that's about the end times. So if you're watching this currently, the series is going on now. If you're watching this at a later date, you can go back and watch it on the Journey app. It's called Handwriting on the Wall, 5-part series. And you and I are teaching this together.
Yeah.
So I've been opening up, and I'm having a hard time cutting my message down to 40 minutes.
You don't say.
Man, there's just so much to say. This should be a 15-part sermon series, don't you think?
Yeah, there's a whole lot there.
Oh, man. So anyway, we narrowed it down to the rapture of the church, the Great Tribulation, the second coming, the Battle of Armageddon, the 1,000-year reign, and the Great White Throne Judgment. Mm-hmm. So those are all overlapping topics in the 5 weeks.
Right.
So I've covered the rapture of the church, and if you want to go back and watch the rapture message, it is on the Journey app. It's part 1 of the handwriting series. We covered the rapture. In part 2, this past Sunday, we talked about the Great Tribulation. And there's so much information about the Great Tribulation in the Bible. Daniel, Jesus, and John all spoke prolifically. Now, of course, Jesus is the creator. We always start with what Jesus says and balance everything else around the words of the Lord. But Daniel and John, Jesus quoted Daniel. In Matthew 24, Jesus quotes Daniel 9:27 about the abomination of desolation. And then John, in the book of Revelation, expands on the vision that Daniel had. So it's just a story, and there's so many precise details in the prophecies that we're watching come to pass in real time, and it's almost scary how accurate John was. The whole thing. I was going to just take a minute and talk about our culture, where we are as a country, and just kind of elaborate on what we see happening. But I did want to say this first. When I was in Bible college, the second semester I was there, they brought in a professor of eschatology, and I think that's the right word, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, the end time studies. And he spent, I think we had a month it seemed like it was a whole month of chapels that he put this life-size banner on the stage. Now, we had chapel in the main church. The main church would seat several thousand, so the stage was massive. And his banner reached from one side of the stage to the other. It must have been 30 or 40 foot long. I don't know how tall it was. It was big enough that I could read it from the back row. It was a tall, and he kind of laid out the timeline of the end times.
How nice of him.
Yeah, it was a lot. I'm thinking, man, just to decipher all of that prophetic information and put it in a really neat, colorful chart.
Yeah.
I was kind of impressed with that.
Yeah.
And a little overwhelmed.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it started with the church age and the rapture, and then, went all the way through the tribulation to the great white throne judgment. But that was the first taste I had of seeing what we think the end times will look like. And we probably should say this right off the bat. No one really knows for sure, because some of those prophecies are metaphors. Some of them are overlapping. Some of them use, pictures like beasts and animals and false prophets. And I think a lot of it is very subject to interpretation. However, some things are very clear. Jesus Christ is coming back. There will be a great white throne judgment, and this world will be plunged into a great tribulation. Those things are without question.
Sure.
So let's talk a little bit about where we are as a country.
Yeah.
So we're not in the Great Tribulation, but we could see John's prophecy coming to pass, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So, when you talk about some of the difficulties in understanding the book of Revelation as it relates to allegories or metaphors and as it relates to pictures and symbolism, another issue that exists there is understanding what is something that may have taken place already in the past to a smaller degree, but is going to come to greater fulfillment in the future, and we see some of that taking place. So, while we aren't in the tribulation now, there are definitely indicators that show us we're in a time of tribulation, but it's not the great tribulation. So it's this time where we do see sin running more and more rampant, where we do see the love of many growing cold. But even with those things, and as difficult and as crazy as culture is, we still understand this as just a smaller version of what is yet to come on a much more horrific scale in the future.
Yeah, there's a whole movement in the theology circles called preterist.
Yeah.
People who think a lot of this has already happened. I am not in the preterist camp at all. I think all of this, most of it, is still to come. But I do see some of the validity. I do see validity in some of their points.
Yeah.
That, maybe when Titus ransacked Jerusalem in 70 AD, part of that prophecy was fulfilled from Matthew 24. Who's to say that it wasn't? But again, there still remains a lot that's going to happen. The abomination of desolation has never happened.
Right.
That Jesus said, watch out for the abomination of desolation. Let he who reads this understand. So I think he was just trying to make sure, hey, I want you to get this.
Right.
This is an event that's going to be pivotal to the whole domino collapse.
Right.
So
so we could look to the world around us, and we do. We see people. It's people's hearts are becoming harder and harder. We see individuals who are, think just the craziness going on in our public libraries today. Drag queens reading books to children and things of that nature. Stuff that we would even 10 years ago never imagine wouldn't
have happened.
Actually taking place around. Somebody would say 10 years ago, hey, you know what's going to happen? You're going to have men dress up like women and then go read to your children, and parents are going to fight for their ability to do that.
Right.
So they could bring their 6-year-old to watch a woman, a man dressed as a woman, read to your child and dance around in their underwear and whatever else. Like, no, come on, dude,
That's
you're crazy.
never gonna
What have you been smoking?
That'll never happen.
What's
happening?
Yeah, right now, literally. So.
Happening right now.
Yeah, it's craziness.
Yeah. So I think, we watched this happen in real time. But John got specific, and he said that there would even be a number system that every person on the earth would receive a mark. At the time of the first century, I think the population was like 100 million worldwide, from what I read. It's a guesswork, but it was tiny compared to today.
Right.
But even that prophecy then seemed to be kind of ridiculous. How will you number every person? That's not going to happen. That technology didn't exist until this generation.
Right.
Because of the advance of, computer technology and programs and microchips and all those things, it's not only possible, it's happening.
Right.
I know the European Union is instituting, a union-wide mark that you can have inserted on your hand or your forehead. And weirdly enough, it's exactly the places that John predicted, the right hand or the forehead. So I watched this video the other day. It's a secular news station talking about this new mark that the European Union's rolling out. And the very first person to ever volunteer to get it was a British man. And he was talking about how convenient it's going to be able to shop and not carry his debit card. And he said, it's right here in my hand. I'm like,
dude, the card is so hard to carry around, though.
I know, it's heavy. It weighs, 1/10 of an ounce. Yeah.
So it's
going to be so convenient now.
That sounds so much better to me.
But his wife refused to take the little chip, which is quite interesting. He was celebrating, and she was like, I'm not taking that.
Right.
Yeah. So I think, we're going to see this happen. It's slow. It's like the frog in the kettle thing, the water's getting warm real slow.
Right.
Yeah, I was watching the group over at Davos, Switzerland, it's like a poorly written James Bond novel to watch all these guys gather. They fly their private planes in from all over the world. There's hundreds and hundreds of private planes, but all of these people are preaching the gospel of global warming,
right?
Which is the most hypocritical thing in the world. Right. You just use as much carbon as I'm going to use in my whole lifetime.
Right.
On your one plane trip to tell me how bad my lifestyle is.
Right.
But the media just takes it at face value and pretends like, these guys are saving the world.
Yeah, how nice of them.
Yeah, and they're talking about things like digital currency. The World Bank now is gearing up to offer this digital currency. 15-minute cities. Have you read anything about the 15-minute cities?
I haven't.
Man, this is scary. It's spooky. So guess who's already doing them? China. They are building 15-minute cities. And the concept of 15-minute cities simply means that everything that you need is within a 15-minute walking distance of your house. You can go to the grocery, you can go to the laundry, you can go to the movies, you can go to school. It's all, you don't need a car.
Right.
You can walk 15 minutes away, so everybody can live in their own little community and walk. But the downside of it is, under a lockdown, like we just all experienced a couple of years ago, they can lock down the 15-minute city and you can't leave.
Yeah.
Even if they run out of food, you can't leave.
Yeah.
You're there forever. And so people are sacrificing their freedom for convenience and for safety. So all these things are happening right now. The 15-minute cities, the digital currency, the social credit scoring system,
right,
where if you are not a good citizen,
right,
you are canceled. You're not able to shop, or
right,
it's slowly happening. And it's just, to me, it's John prophesied this 2,000, almost 2,000 years ago, and man, it's happening.
Yeah. Well, you
today.
see what. What's his name? The guy, Elon Musk.
Oh yeah,
his Neuralink thing. You've read about that? Understand what's happening
I
there?
Just kind of lay it out.
So basically, what he's doing right now, one of the companies that he owns are overseas. They have created some type of implant.
Yeah.
And they literally drill a hole in your skull. It goes in behind your ear or something.
Yeah.
At least right now, this is the way it works. And then the goal is for those who maybe you can't walk, you suffered a traumatic spinal injury. It's supposed to help make some connections so that individuals who've lost certain movements can regain them by means of computer.
Wow.
Which sounds very enticing. But then you recognize and understand now that there's some other entity outside of yourself that is very easily able to control and manipulate you. And it starts off in a very, and I think this is kind of the trouble with a lot of these things, whether we talk about the social credit system or the 15-minute cities or any of those types of things. It sounds very enticing and appealing.
They are predicated on, this is good for you.
Yeah. Yeah, look what we can do here.
You need this.
Yeah, look what we can do. Look how many lives can be changed. But if you continue listening to Elon on a lot of the podcasts that he'll go sit down with, he talks about his future vision for what he would hope to be able to achieve.
Yeah.
Oh, well, maybe humans will be able to communicate with one another by means of, basically by means of Bluetooth.
Yeah.
So just like our devices can connect together, so I can have a thought and transmit that thought to you. So it starts off like, we want to help people who can't walk learn to walk. Hey, that's amazing.
Right. Oh boy, that's
let's do
noble,
that, buddy. Wait a minute. What do you want to do? You want to start getting into my thoughts?
Wait. Look, you don't want to know what I'm thinking, man. I don't even know what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
That reminds me too. A few years ago, California passed a law. It was called Assembly Bill 5, and they outlawed gigs, people who have their own subcontracting business, like Uber or DoorDash, or people who own their own trucks that own 18-wheelers. So they've slowly been putting those people out of business, and about 70,000 truckers in California have either quit, moved, or sold their business to line up with that law, because California said, this is what they said, it's not fair that all of these independent contractors don't have a job with a retirement and health benefits, but so people traded out their freedom for security of retirement, health benefits, and hours. Well, a lot of truckers just left. They moved to Texas, they moved to Florida, where there's still freedom, But I heard recently, and I heard this morning on Mike Rowe's podcast. Mike said that bill now is in the U.S. Congress. That Joe Biden and his administration is pushing that concept of doing away with independent contractors and, being able to have your own business. You got to be part. Why? Because it makes taxing very easy. If you work for XYZ widget corporation, we know where you work, how much you make, how much taxes you owe us. We know right where you are.
Right.
If you're just some trucker who's, hauling a load of plywood every day to a different country or different county, different parish, we don't know where you are, how much money you made. So it's, and the Department of Energy, so I looked it up. So the Department of Energy now is pushing this. I don't think it's going to pass just because the Democrats lost the last election.
Right.
So it'll never get past the House. But it's not far. It only takes, a few people to flip. We only got, so many conservatives and God-fearing people in Congress. This could be the law of the land, soon.
Right.
And then it's just one more nail in the coffin, it's just one more thing, because we all know that we're moving toward a one world government, toward a supreme ruler. The Bible calls him the Antichrist. We don't know what his name's going to be on the earth. He may go by a different title, but the Bible calls him the Antichrist because he is opposed, and we know who's behind it. Satan.
Right.
Satan wants to be worshiped as God, so we're watching all this in real time, so I don't know.
Yeah, just say no.
Yeah, not interested. Not interested. Yeah, I was thinking, I said this yesterday, there are some things that are going to have to be slowly required of us, like, the currency, and the measuring system, and look, I'm all for the metric system. I'm not trying to be a knothead. But the truth is, I don't understand it, and I don't want to understand it. And I think that may be the delay, one of some of those things that have to be universal.
Right.
So we're still measuring distance in miles and weight in pounds and, liquid in ounces, So that's different. But most of the world, 195 other nations have already all agreed.
Yeah, you'll see on Twitter often how people overseas will make fun of Americans because we'll use any other thing to weigh or measure things than the metric system.
We won't use it.
Yeah,
refuse to.
We'll gauge things by that's 37 SUVs. Those whales weigh as much as 500 SUVs.
We're not saying metric. We're not saying anything to do with the metric system.
Yeah, we'll use any other unit other than metric.
Well, America is not mentioned in Old Testament prophecy anywhere. Russia, China, Iraq, Iran, Western Europe, Northern Africa, all these nations have a place in the great. And we don't know why God didn't mention America. Maybe we have no role in it. Mm-hmm. Could be, so.
Yeah. Well, we're a relatively young country, considering the span of history.
Right. We're 248 years old.
Right.
And maybe, now, like I said, I don't know, but I can guess. And I was guessing yesterday. Why isn't America mentioned? Maybe there's a nuclear war in our future, and we're not here anymore. And I hope that's not it.
Yeah.
Because it really makes me sad.
Yeah.
Or maybe, as an empire, we're on our last days, which is very possible because most empires fizzle out after 200 years.
Right.
Babylon, Syria. I mean, not Syria, but Iran. What was Iran called?
Assyria.
No, it was called something else. What was it?
Babylon. You have
Babylon.
Assyria. You have
Cyrus the Great was
Persia.
Persia. Thank you. Persia. So there was Babylon. There was the Medes and the Persians. There was Greece. There was the Roman Empire, and the Roman Empire lasted for centuries, in some form or another. But their height was only a few hundred years, but they lasted for about 800 years.
Right.
And then the British Empire, less than 3 centuries. And America's on our 2nd century now, working on our 3rd. Yeah. So maybe we don't exist anymore. I don't know. Maybe we're declining as a world power.
Kind of the route that I lean towards. Yeah. Out of the 3 choices that you presented.
Yeah.
Just because of our open borders and because of the Democrat policies and because of, it's like we're slowly killing ourselves.
Yeah. We're closing our coal plants.
Right.
And not replacing them with anything.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
It makes no. And we're building windmills on the coast of the eastern seaboard that's killing the wells and producing 2% of our energy. Like, what are we doing? What the heck? And we're closing coal-powered plants.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
Yeah, and we have no way to.
Well, it makes no sense to those of us with
who want to
redeemed minds,
who want to heat and cool our houses and put gas in our cars.
Yeah.
It's incredible that fossil fuels. By the way, fossil fuels are here primarily because of the Great Flood.
Yeah.
The Great Flood, which destroyed the earth, killed every living thing on the earth except for Noah and his family and the animals on the ark. All of those forms of life are buried in rock layers
Right.
that over the last 5,000 years have fossilized and turned to fuel. So there's billions of dead things buried in rock layers, laid down by water all over the earth.
Right.
And now we call it oil, gas, and coal.
Yep.
So God took his judgment, the greatest judgment up until this point, and even redeemed the judgment for us so that the fossil fuel now is part of our energy source that heats and cools and lights our homes. And now we have I spent 5 years in the oil industry while I was saving money to go to Bible college, and they told us all the time in training and so forth, we got a 10,000 year supply of oil, gas, and coal. A 10,000 year supply for what we know about that we've already discovered. Not to mention what's been discovered since the 1980s.
Yeah.
We could power the world, and it's clean. You can burn coal in a clean manner. Gasoline. There's almost no residue. From our this whole global warming thing is totally a pretext for dominating people's lives. This is about government takeover, pure and simple. And now we're trying to replace it with oil, with wind and solar. And I hope we can. But that technology does not exist.
Right.
It does not exist in the current form. We can't power the world. We'll all be living in the dark. We won't be able to drive our cars. So then what happens? Then we're plunged into this world where we are dependent on the government.
Well, so there's a phrase that's used a few times throughout Revelation, in 1 hour.
Yeah.
Right. Over and over we see in 1 hour that great city Babylon has been overturned in 1 hour. And I don't think that's speaking about us necessarily right now, because I don't think we're there.
Yeah.
But it does. Whenever I read that passage over and over again in 1 hour, I think it's in Revelation 18. And then we see just Friday, the 16th largest bank in America went under.
Mm-hmm.
Woke up this morning, another bank went under over the
Signature
weekend.
Bank fell during the weekend.
New York, right?
They were closed.
Right.
How do you feel while you're closed?
How bad are you doing when you?
Man, you know what? Don't reopen.
Yeah.
You're done.
So you see,
So we had
see
two
those
major
things.
banks in one weekend.
Right.
Go.
So again, we're not there. We're not at Revelation 18 in real time right now.
Right, but in 1 hour.
But it kind of supports my understanding of the here and now, but not the full measure of yet what's to come in the future. There's an expression of some of this now, but there's a greater fulfillment to come in the future. And anyway, so when I see these banks failing in such quick manner, so many of us, and we learned this the hard way during during COVID, right? What we learned was things can shift and change very, very quickly.
Yeah.
We were literally at a staff conference in Dallas.
Right.
Was it Dallas or Houston?
He was in Dallas at the AG National
We're all having
Children's.
a grand time.
We were having a party.
Enjoying our company, having great meals.
Oh, man.
And then all of a sudden it's, hey, let's go home. It's time to head home. And we're getting phone calls from our loved ones stopping by toilet paper on the ride home. We don't have toilet paper here.
We did stop and buy toilet paper.
Yes, we did. It's so crazy.
Remember sitting in there? This is what was it? 2018?
Sounds right.
19? I forgot what year it was.
Yes.
Now it was a billion years ago.
It was 29. Must have been 2019.
Yeah, so we're there at that conference, and there's a couple thousand children's pastors and youth pastors there, and we're there, and they make an announcement. Hey, they may be closing Dallas. They may be putting us under a quarantine. I'm like, what? I'm like, what? What did he just say?
Right.
He said, we're going to cut the conference short because Dallas wants us to exit. I'm like, I have never heard of this. And I thought, Dallas is crazy. I didn't realize it was going to be worldwide.
Right. Yeah, so it just highlights that much more, right?
Right, in 1 hour.
In 1 hour. And we don't, we get so lulled into a sense of comfort and false peace by the luxuries that we have here in America, our homes and our the easy access to food, and those things are blessings from the Lord. But at the same time, I think that occasionally God will shake us in such a manner like this last little scare that we had here.
Yeah.
God will shake things and show us, hey, this is nothing. You think this is a big deal? This is not, there's something much greater that's coming in the future.
Yeah.
So,
and you know what really that I didn't expect was that all of the institutions, the medical institutions, army, the police, they all went, lockstep into this lockdown.
Right.
I mean, to the point where they were arresting people who weren't wearing masks.
Right.
Which you'd thought that was unheard of 6 months before then.
Right.
We'll never arrest a lady for not wearing a mask.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Canada, we watched Trudeau just go off the deep end. The guy is an out and out communist, man. Yeah. He's an antichrist communist.
Right.
He's arresting pastors for the crime of preaching the gospel.
Right.
What you thought in Canada? Little old Canada?
So you read through Revelation, one of the biggest hindrances that people have, we said it before, like it's trying to understand what's symbolic and what is literal. Another hindrance is people say, man, that seems a little far-fetched.
Yeah, this will never.
Come on, that seems that you really believe that?
Right.
You really believe that he's coming back on a horror? You really believe these plagues? Do you really believe? So a lot of times people will struggle with some of the intensity of what's described to come in the future.
Yeah.
But I look at what we just experienced and I say, man, look what the media did. Right. Look how lock and step they all got so quickly and so easily.
Yeah. I
look how the military followed.
The media, the military, the medical institutions.
Every bit of it.
They all just fell in.
So to me, it's like, no, this could happen very quickly.
Very quickly. I
easily.
was shocked, man, how quickly everybody just fell on the line. And then they started canceling people on social media who didn't agree with them. Yeah. They were starting to shadow ban and outright ban people who didn't agree.
Fortunately, we have a little bit of a shift taking place where normal, sane, God-fearing individuals are starting to finally speak up, and in a louder way than which we were in the past. And some of this woke ideology is being recognized for what it is. One, being from the pit of hell, and two, just being a form of manipulation to try and coerce people to do what you want them to do. You get in line with us or we're going to cancel you.
And we're watching our own government, our own U.S. government, buy into this lie, and have the power and the force of law, to institute it.
I think we have a little bit of, so you often see that pendulum swing.
Yeah.
I feel like we're starting to make a swing back. Maybe it's just because Biden's, I won't say his days are numbered. That sounds like I'm prophesying something fatal. His presidency.
Yeah.
He's on his way out.
Right.
And in the turn in the House as far as the Democrats and Republicans are concerned. So I feel like there's a little bit of a shift that's beginning to take place, and we see that socially as well. When you look across social, Elon Musk buying Twitter and starting to try and change some of the dynamic that was taking place there.
Did you read anything about the Twitter files? Things that
I followed it.
Matt Taibbi and the other people were releasing?
Yeah.
Man.
Seeing how the FBI
our
was...
government is wicked.
Yeah.
They're wicked, man. Yeah. I mean, literally, all the alphabet institutions in the American government were in collusion with all social media to stop people from disagreeing with them.
Well, that's why this next presidential election is going to be so important.
Yeah,
and so powerful, frankly.
It is,
because whoever the Republicans nominate and get behind, theoretically, it should be an individual who's going to expose all of that for what it is.
Someone who's going to be fearless.
Right, because we know it's happening. We understand it's taking place.
We've seen the proof of it.
Yeah, so why don't we put someone in charge who's willing to dismantle and actually drain it?
Yeah, I think the best thing we can do is fire about 2/3 of the federal government force, make them all go get real jobs, and make Congress a volunteer position.
Yeah.
You don't get paid.
Yeah, the way it used to be.
Yeah, you come volunteer and go get a job or run a business.
Right.
And don't let the lawyers write the laws that govern their own businesses.
Yeah. Look back 150 years ago and see what people in Congress are doing. They would volunteer to go serve in Congress for 4 years or 8 years and then go back and farm.
Right, and actually contribute to society.
Go back and run newspapers.
Yeah.
Go back and, So it's wild.
Yeah,
we've gone in a whole new direction.
Yeah, we have millions of federal employees who we do not need.
Look at our president.
Right.
Our president's been in government for 45 years.
55, since the 1940s or 50s or whatever it's been.
It's ridiculous. He's got no idea.
Yeah, he's never had a real job in his life. Except he was a lifeguard at one time, I think, in school.
I find that hard to believe.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, it's incredible to watch what's happening in our federal government, in our state government. You know, Governor John Bel Edwards locked down our state, and he told churches. I was on the phone call. I was one of hundreds of pastors listening to him on a conference call. He told us, "You guys are not allowed to meet."
Right.
And my thought was, "Yeah, watch me. I mean, you come get us." And lots of pastors closed down. Lots of people that I love and respect closed down their churches.
Right.
You know, just one word from the governor. You're wrong.
Right.
You know, people need the church now more than ever.
Right.
We're here for the sick.
Right.
We're here for those who are dying.
Right.
You know, that we're not going to hide out on our. What good am I? I can't work from home. My job requires personal interaction. Yeah. It's about relationships. Yeah. You know, and we watched our own government, our local, state, and federal government in lockstep with China institute this worldwide lockdown over a virus that had 99.9% recovery rate.
Yeah, and then they lied and lied and lied. And if you said anything that, went against the narrative that they were trying to portray,
there's millions and millions dying. Yeah, that happens every year.
So, we see that, and before I move on, that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about Bridges.
Yeah.
The fact that we're helping train up individuals for ministry.
Bridges Christian College.
Correct. Just the reality that if the government ever moves in that direction, maybe 4 years from now, maybe, 8 or 10 years now, God forbid it ever happen.
Right.
But if for some crazy reason the government did go in that direction where they were going to take away that title for money from schools of higher education and hinder people from receiving financial aid who believe what we believe, that marriage is between one man and one woman. Mm-hmm. We aren't going to perform gay marriages. That we are, those types of
there are two genders.
Yeah,
unborn children are humans.
Correct.
All the basic things we thought would always be accepted.
Correct.
Have gone out the window.
So if the government ever continues moving in that woke direction to say, hey, we're not going to provide funding for X, Y, and Z. If you believe X, Y, and Z, we're not going to provide funding for that. We're set up in such a way it's like, hey, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Do what you want to do. We're going to keep doing what we do.
Right.
It's not going to impact us.
We'll do it without financial aid.
Yeah. Our school is not built on that money. We're built on a vision and a mission from God.
Right.
So we don't do it because we're trying to get rich. We don't do it because we got to support the library or the fountain out front or any of those things that aren't necessarily bad and evil. It's just the point of we have a greater mission to play here. And if the government continues moving in a horrible direction, we're going to keep making disciples for Jesus.
And I think the broader picture too is the church. The church is not a building. Fortunately, we're able to have buildings today, but we know the church existed for 4 centuries without buildings. Yeah. And we know that the church will always exist because it is the bride of Christ. And Jesus said, I will build my church. So we know, if that does happen and we can't meet or we're locked down or forced out or, whatever of our buildings, the church is going to rise and be glorious. More glorious. The church is still strong in China, even though China is run by brutal dictators who openly murder and enslave people. We don't hear this very much in our culture because, don't make the Chinese mad. China practices slavery today. Right. The Uyghurs are enslaved by China. And while Disney's throwing a fit about how horrible America is, Disney has a deal with the Chinese communists to use locations in and around the slave camps for filming their movies. Disney is evil because they are at home preaching how bad we are, but at the same time making millions of dollars off the slaves in China. And the NBA is the same way. All these NBA players who are protesting America have multi-million, $100 million deals with the Chinese communists and never say one word about them. Right. Because that's how they make they buy their mansions and buy their jets. Look, China is run by evil dictators who will play a huge role in the Great Tribulation. And we see Russia, the Ukraine, I don't want to go into the weeds with Ukraine, but Ukraine is ran literally by Nazis.
Yeah.
You know, and I watched the stories on the media, and they act like Ukraine's this God-fearing, loving democracy.
Right.
The dude is a Nazi,
Yeah.
and we're sending him billions of dollars every month
Right.
to fight Russia, who's run by communists.
Right.
So we have Nazis fighting communists, and we're like, okay, here's a few more dollars for you.
Yeah, it's sad.
So
We've kind of done that. We meaning America. We've
Yeah.
kind of done that in similar fashion over the last 30, 40 years without fail, though, supporting one, the lesser of two evils almost.
one evil dictator over the other.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, World War II was settled like that. It was the Americans and the communists in Russia that defeated the Nazis in Germany.
Right.
And then after that, we had to divide up the spoils, and that's why there was an East Germany and a West Germany, because Russia kept half of it
Right.
and locked it down and built a wall around it.
Right.
And then they took 30 nations in Eastern Europe, and they all became communist satellite states that now have all gotten free, with a few exceptions, North Korea and a few others. But you're right.
That whole scenario, when you're talking about Ukraine, talking about Russia, talking about their partnership and alliance with China, who's getting more and more, emboldened by the day, it seems.
Yeah.
That, again, you start talking about Revelation, and we aren't quite there yet. We aren't in the tribulation. That's not where we are by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
But again, you start to see the handwriting on the wall.
But within an hour.
Yeah. Amen.
Within
things
an
can
hour.
change in an hour. That's right.
We're in Dallas enjoying a great children's conference. 30 minutes later, we're stocking up on toilet paper.
On the ride home. How crazy.
At Buc-ee's service stations. Hey, can we get some toilet paper? We got to get out of town.
Wild. Yeah.
We all came home with a truckload of toilet paper.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw a cartoon this morning, and somebody said, they're talking about the run on the bank. Mm-hmm. There's no way there'll be run on the banks in America on Monday morning. And the guy, he said, remember what we did with the last emergency? And he showed a big truckload of toilet paper. He said, it can happen pretty quick.
Yeah.
If we all go to the bank this morning and withdraw our savings account, the American economy is over.
Right.
It's done.
Yeah.
In one day.
Yeah.
So,
and that's the reality. Things are much more fragile than what people understand.
Yeah, very fragile. I saw one of the biggest investors at the bank in California. What was it called? Silicon Valley Bank. Is that what it's called?
Yep.
So anyway, I read his blog yesterday morning before church, and he said, here's how my Friday and Saturday went. He just said everything he did by the hour. He owns a business, a very successful business. Apparently, he's a multimillionaire. He said all of my personal money was in Silicon Valley Bank.
Right.
My wife called me while I was at work and said, "Hun, there's about to be a run on the bank." She said, "I went online and I looked at what was going on." He said, "Oh my gosh." So I said, I called my accountant. He said, "Get all of my money out of Silicon Bank." Mm-hmm. He said they put the request in online to move the money. All of it was blocked.
Right.
They wouldn't let them move it.
Right.
And he said, I had 3 or 4 other banks that were ready to take the wire transfers, but they wouldn't release my money.
Right.
He said, eventually I got some of it out.
Right.
He said, but he said, I'll find out tomorrow, meaning Monday, today, I'll find out tomorrow how poor I am.
Yeah, it's crazy.
In 1 week, he went from a multimillionaire to not even know what his balance was in his checking account or his savings account.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah.
Which is why, people from the generation before you even, would put things in a coffee can out in the yard,
my
in the
grandparents
mattress.
did not use banks.
Yeah. So I can remember my grandmother, she'd put stuff in the freezer. Mm-hmm. Literally in a, what do you call it? The little TV dinners.
Yeah.
So the TV dinner tray would be gone, the food, and
it's cash.
Yeah, there'd be some money in there.
Rachel's grandmother, when
in
she
her
passed
clothing,
away, she told us, she said, "Hey, and when I die, my money," and she told us where her cash was.
Yeah.
It was in mason jars and her Chester jars.
My grandma had all of her clothing. Check Mama's clothing.
Yeah.
When Mama passed.
Right, there's cash in there. Yeah, and because if you lived through the Great Depression,
exactly. Yeah.
You lived through the 1930s,
yeah.
and you go from being middle class or even well off to being dirt poor in a moment. When all the banks closed, every bank closed in one day. It's done in one cycle.
Yep.
Stock market crash, 1929. All the banks folded, and you went from being a landowner with a farm and an income to asking for somebody for a bowl of soup.
Right.
Overnight.
Yeah.
So my dad grew up in the Great Depression. He told me a lot of stories, about what it was like to be a kid going to school They walked to school. His mom would pack him a lunch. He said he would pack a biscuit from the night before, and if they had a really good month, he would get a piece of bacon. And she'd wrap it in a dish towel, a literal dish rag, put it in his little pocket, and said, "This is for your lunch today." And that was just a normal day for him. He said, "You never even thought about people having," because when I grew up, I had lunchrooms, and we had full lunches. My dad said that never even crossed our minds that there would be someday there would be lunches that you get a full meal that you can criticize and throw away. And that's where we are now.
What's the scripture? I've never seen the righteous forsaken,
or a seed begging bread. That was David.
So, the reality is, while things can change in an hour or literally in an instant, the Lord's people are still taken care of. So we may, we may be rationed down to a biscuit.
That's it.
We may be rationed down to a piece of bacon on a good week. But the reality is God still provides for his people, which is why, as we move into these increasingly more challenging and difficult times.
We're going to be okay. Look, I know the church is going to be fine. We're going to get out before it gets really bad. I believe.
Hopefully.
I hope I'm right. I really hope the pre-trib whole thing is right. I believe it is. But, what about the price of eggs? Eggs went from 10 cents each to $1 each. When it happened a couple months ago, I went to get eggs, and they had a few eggs on the shelf, and there was a sign, limit 3 dozen eggs per customer. I'm like, where are we?
When did this happen?
When did we go from get as many eggs as you want? You only get 3 dozen today. And that was still $5 a dozen. It's still $15 for, a dozen and a half eggs, or 3 dozen eggs.
So a church member, I saw she posted on Facebook the other day, she posted on Facebook that, so apparently her daughter, a teenage daughter, must have made an enemy somewhere along the way. Teenagers do dumb things. So somebody came and threw an egg at her house.
An egg.
And she commented, like, how hard are times? You tried to get back at my daughter and you threw one single egg.
I'm mad, but I can't afford that many eggs. We used to take up, we being collective, we used to take a whole tray of eggs. That was when you egg somebody. Now you just egg.
One egg. That's enough. You get the point. You see how valuable this is.
If I had money, there'd be a whole lot more eggs on your house right now.
I really want to egg your house, but I'm really scared of taking my mama's eggs too.
Mom needs the eggs. She really does. But to me, that's just probably a microcosm of the entire world economy. That we're just one bad week from, plunging into chaos and darkness. That's why people, I believe, are going to turn to Christ. And I really believe this, Al, that we're going to see a generation of people turn to the Lord. And that's my prayer, that we'll see a return back to faith. And I hope that's the third option that I was telling you earlier about America. The first one was nuclear war. The second one was maybe we're not a world power. The third one, maybe America has a revival and millions of people get saved and they're gone in the rapture. That's why we're not part of the prophecies of the end time.
That is extremely hopeful.
I hope. I live in fun country, Al. We learned that from Mark Gungor last weekend. Man, I took the test and I'm like 196 points in fun country.
Gosh.
I am always looking for the silver lining, for the positive side, and that's my hope, that we're going to see millions of people come to Christ. That movie Jesus Revolution is out right now in theaters, and it's doing well. It's blowing up, man. So that's my hope, that there's another Jesus revolution.
Amen.
In this century. We need a move of God. I think as we're wrapping this up, man, I just think it's a great time to remind everybody that if you are not right with the Lord, that now is the season for you to get your house in order, because Jesus said he's coming in an hour when we think not. He's coming like a thief in the night. Now's the time to get yourself and your family back in church, right with God. Get your affairs in order, because it's going to come, like Al said, within an hour. Things are going to be normal, and then the pandemic, in a moment, the world shut down, and we're going to see it happen. Now, I hope it's 1,000 years before Christ comes, but I'm living like it's going to be today. So I want to encourage you, if you're not right with the Lord, take a moment today and make peace with God. Go to church this Sunday. Bring your family to church. If you live locally here on the North Shore, come visit us here at Journey. We're at 3127 Pontchartrain Drive. There's driving directions on the Journey app or at jf.church. 8:30 and 10 a.m. Come fellowship, come worship with us, or you can watch us online. 10:30. Every Sunday morning, we are online. At 10 o'clock right now. We're going to move to 10:30 at Easter, but we're at 10 o'clock right now. But if you're watching this after Easter, 10:30 online, jf.church on the Journey app. You can also watch us on YouTube, all across a lot of the social media sites, on Facebook. You can catch Journey Fellowship Church. Download our app. It's free from your app store. Go to your app store, type into the search bar, Journey Fellowship Church. We're the only one. You'll see the app there with our Journey logo. Download it. It is stock full of information. It's great resources, opportunities to get connected, how to find us, how to become a disciple, how to take the next step in your faith. Now is the time for you to get your house right with the Lord. And let me encourage you to go back and watch this series. If you haven't seen it already, it's called Handwriting on the Wall. We're in the middle of it now, but soon all 5 parts will be posted on the Journey app. Go back and watch it all and get your life right with Christ. And let's take advantage of the time that we have right now. Any final thoughts you want to close out with?
No, Jesus is good and he is worthy. I think that in these times, as difficult as they may be, they are going to get harder, obviously.
Yeah.
But anything that you're afraid of losing now, Jesus is worth it.
Amen.
He's worthy.
Yeah.
And I would just say make the decision, quit, get off the fence, jump wholeheartedly in, serve the Lord, because he's worthy.
Hey, you mentioned Bridges Christian College. Why don't you give us a little plug for Bridges? How can someone interested in getting a theological education at an affordable price get more information?
Yeah, so bridgeschristiancollege.com. That's where you could find all of the info as of right now. We did recently purchase bcc.edu.
Boy, I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that should be up and running relatively soon. But for the moment, bridgeschristiancollege.com. And our primary purpose is to help individuals who have that calling upon their life get from where they are to where God wants them to be. So to earn an accredited theological degree without the crippling student loan debt, you just can't beat who we are and what we're doing right now.
It is the best theological education deal in America.
Amen.
Bar none. So right now it's bridgeschristiancollege.com.
Correct.
But we're moving over to bcc.edu real soon. So if you're watching this later on in the year,
it'll still point there. Yeah. We'll have it all.
bcc.edu. What a cool domain name. Yep. Well, thanks, Pastor Al, for joining us. I can't wait to hear you preach part 4.
Looking forward to it.
You'll be preaching. What's your topic?
We're talking about the millennial reign and the great white throne.
Yeah, I'm going to close out this Sunday. I'm preaching part 3. And I'm going to close out with the point where Jesus cast Satan into a bottomless pit for 1,000 years, which will open up the 1,000-year millennial. So that's where you're picking up in part 4.
Gotcha.
And you'll go right into the millennial reign and then the great white throne judgment. So I'm excited about that. And then in part 5, I'll finish the series, and we're going to talk about the new heavens and the new earth. And that's the point of everything is that, Jesus said in John 14, I am going to my Father's house to prepare a place for you, that where I am, you may be also. So Jesus has not forgotten about you. He is right now preparing a place in the Father's house. I hope you'll take advantage of that and make yourself part of the kingdom of God by having placed your faith in Jesus Christ and trust him as your Lord and Savior. Not by works, but by the work of Christ on the cross are we saved. So, been a great conversation.
Yep.
So much to talk about. So, I'm Doug McAllister for Journey Fellowship Church, and we are blessed that you joined us today. We'll be talking more again real soon. Hope you'll come back and check us out. If you want to know more about us, check out jf.church. Download the Journey app from your app store. And I'm honored to spend this time with you for Journey Fellowship Church. I've been your host, Doug McAllister, and we hope you have a great week.